Hey folks, it's Frederik from the FWX podcast. I want to talk to you about another franchise that this year is coming to an end, as far as we know. And that is the Mission Impossible franchise. And right here in this picture, you can see all of those movies. And to make things easy, I'm going to talk about each movie separately, but I'm going to do it in 3 blocks. And that is those first 3 in this this episode. And then the next one will be about the next 3, that's Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, and Fallout. And finally, Dead Reckoning and the Final Reckoning in the last episode for this franchise. And so, before we get started, I'm going to give you the disclaimer, of course. I'm also going to talk about things that are unique to this franchise. For instance, all the crazy-ass stunts that Tom Cruise does as our main guy, Ethan Hunt. But also things like espionage, because there's a lot of that in here. It being an espionage franchise, of course. And I'm going to do that in a second. I'm first going to give you the disclaimer. First off, I might flub words. That tends to happen every now and again. I might also swear. Also tends to happen or not. Depends on the episode. Depends on what I'm saying. Also, I might have a weird pause. It's because I'm still reading something off my screen here. And I'm haven't completely gathered my thoughts about it, and I'm conveying it to you. Or because of a different reason. And then also, as I'm reading stuff from on screen, the screen is going to get brighter, and that means that I'm going to get brighter, visually, of course. And then, okay, so let's start with this first episode. And I want to talk, of course, about number 1, and that is the original Mission Impossible, which, as I've now said, released in 1996 on the 22nd of May. So this movie has been out for a very long time. And I'm going to start talking about this. I'm also going to bring up the cast through a handy dandy picture I took online. I took a print screen of the cast, and that's this picture right here with all the people that are important to the story. So I'm gonna talk character. I'm gonna talk story arcs. I'm gonna talk about the movie itself, and I'm gonna talk about any necessary details that are important to both the story and to the larger picture, because this is an important part, by the way, for the whole franchise. There's a lot of things that tee up nicely. They come full circle, as it is. So, let's start with this very first one, with Mission Impossible. And so everything starts in Kiev, where one of those... So, first off, as I said before, the Mission Impossible is the name of this movie franchise. But Mission Impossible is also the name of the agency that is such a huge part of this. And so, on occasion, I might say IMF, and that means the Impossible Mission Force. And that is the name for the agency. Okay, so let's start there with the first movie with Mission Impossible. And I'm first going to talk about, and I have him here in my cast picture, the person that starts everything off. That is IMF agent Jim Phelps, played played in this movie by this actor right here, Jon Voight. You might also know him as the father of Angelina Jolie. And he and his team have just finished a mission in Kiev in Ukraine. And they are sent to Prague, where they are going to stop a rogue agent called Alexander Golitsyn for stealing an NOC list from the CIA. And an NOC means non-official cover. So that is a list with all the names of agents by the CIA that are not through normal means covered by the CIA. So everyone that is undercover, in fact. The list... I'm gonna rephrase it for a second. So they're going to Prague to stop a guy called Alexander Golitsyn from stealing that list of all the undercover MIF agents in Europe. Sorry, not the IMF, the CIA's list. Okay. But, however, that very list is stolen. And one for one, you see every team member of Phelps' team get killed. Also, Golitsyn also gets killed. Until there's only one person left. And that is our main guy right here, played by the immaculate Tom Cruise, playing Ethan Hunt, who is the only survivor of this team. And Ethan meets up with someone else, and that is this person, that is the director of the IMF, Eugene Kittredge, who is played in this movie and in the franchise by Henry Czerny. I hope I said his name right. And so Ethan meets up with Kittredge in a restaurant, and he learns from Kittredge that there was another team during their mission in Prague. And Kittredge tells him that it was actually a setup to potentially lure a mole out of the IMF with the help of this rogue agent, Alexander Golitsyn. I hope I said that name right. And this mole is believed to be working with another person called Max, an arms dealer, as it is part of something called Job 314. And Kittredge suspects that Ethan is the mole. But Ethan, while young and a bit inexperienced, is clever enough to escape as he uses an explosive that he was chewing on, because it was disguised as chewing gum. And before I go any further, by the way, I want to mention that the IMF is known for doing things differently than any other military intelligence or spy agency, and they have interesting tricks to dealing with specific kind of situations. And I'm gonna bring that up with moments in this franchise, in the movies, and so we go on. Okay, so Ethan returns back to the safe house in Prague, and he realizes that the Job 314 is actually a reference to a Bible verse named Job 3:14. And most likely that job is the name of the mole, the code name actually. And here Ethan sees Claire, who is his boss's wife, who was also part of the team, and she faked her death. And she is played, by the way, by this woman, Emmanuelle Béart. I hope I said her name right there. And she explains to Ethan that before they died, that her husband told her that they were compromised, which helped her escape. And so, hold on. And then we go further in this movie, and Ethan arranges an interview, a meeting with this Max character, who, by the way, is also played by another woman in this movie, Vanessa Redgrave, in this picture right here. And so Ethan arranges that meeting with Max to warn her that this list is fake and that there is a tracking device on it. And so, as they meet, they nearly are captured by the other IMF team that Kittredge has sent to get them, or even kill them. And so Ethan Hunt convinces Max that he can get the real list for $10 million. And also who this mole really is, what the real identity is of this person. And so they head back home to the United States. And there they recruit 2 people who have been disavowed by the IMF. And disavowed means they're no longer an active field agent. And that is the 2 people. That is this man right here, Lufer Stickle, played by Ving Rhames in this movie and in the franchise. And then also Franz Krieger, who is played by Jean Reno, the French actor. And the 4 of them have a plan, and they have to do something absolutely fucking crazy though, which is infiltrating the CIA headquarters in Langley, in Virginia, the state of Virginia. And so the plan is to get into the CIA, get the real list, the authentic list, and then escape to London. And so our friend Krieger here, played by Jean Reno, has a magneto-optical disc that has the list on it. So magneto-optical disc is like a storage device that holds stuff. But even once again showing that how smart of a good cookie. That was a weird phrase. So Ethan is a clever guy, and he tricks Krieger into giving it up, and he hands it over to Stickle so he can keep it safe. And the director, Kittredge, is trying to get personal with Ethan by having his mother and uncle falsely arrested in an effort to lure Ethan out. And so Ethan, of course, is distraught and upset by this, and so he contacts Kittredge, again played by Kenny Cerny, this guy, and he contacts him via a payphone, which leads the IMF to trace him and trace the call itself. But that is exactly Ethan's play here. He wants them to follow him. But then, amazingly, his old boss, Jim, resurfaces very unexpectedly because everyone thought he was dead. And he tells Ethan what happened and how he survived, but also that he believes that Kittredge is the mole, that the IMF director is in fact the mole. But actually, at this point, Ethan has already figured out that actually Jim is the mole, as he had discovered that the Bible that he got from Prague was from a Drake Hotel in Chicago, where Jim used to be stationed on an old assignment. So Ethan has it figured out. Jim is the mole. And Ethan then convinces Jim, rather pretends to believe Jim of all of this. And he wants to arrange an exchange of the list with Max, again played by Vanessa Redgrave, this woman right here. And do that on the TGV train in Paris. For those who do not know, the TGV is a fast-ass train in Europe. And so this is a ploy that Ethan has made up to really hear the truth. And he secretly invites Kittredge to this meeting. And then on the train, Ethan gets Max to this list, and she, like any good deal would be, sends him to the location where the money and the mole are, which is in the baggage car of the train. And as this is happening, our friend Ving Rhames as Tickle sabotages the upload of the list to the servers, because as I said before, the list is on a storage device which needs to be uploaded and offloaded to places, to servers. And that leads Jim's wife Claire to go to the baggage car of the train, where she is trying to get the money of this deal. And she sees her husband there. But then it is revealed that actually this isn't Jim. This is Ethan in disguise as him. And then shortly after, the real Jim Phelps arrives and he takes the money from his wife and from Ethan as he's holding them at gunpoint. And so Ethan uses this moment as leverage, and he sends a live video of the confrontation to the director of the IMF, to Kittredge, to really expose Jim Phelps as the mole. And Claire tries very much to reason with her husband because she loves him and she believes that they can live together. But Jim really shows that he's the mole, as he's willing to kill her, and he does it. And he also, as he's trying to get away, subdues Ethan. And so Jim gets to the roof of the train, and he's about to escape with Krieger, played by Jean Reno, in a helicopter onto a rope. But then Ethan gets out of the train and he hooks the, those falling kind of ladders from helicopters. He hooks that to the train, and that forces the helicopter to go with the train into the Channel Tunnel, which, ironically, to get a little bit of real life here, is not that far from where I live, in a bird's eye view, I mean, because that's from, the Channel Tunnel is between France and England, and I live in Belgium. That's where I'm doing the show now from. Okay, let's continue. So, back to the movie. And Ethan has gun in his hands on an explosive so he can take out the chopper. And he does take out the chopper, which also kills Phelps and Krieger. And that leads us to the end of this movie, where director Kittredge takes Max into custody and he gets the NOC list from Stickle, which allows Ethan and Stickle to be reinstated back into the IMF, into the Impossible Mission Force. Although Ethan is unsure about doing that. And he flies back home, and there's a stewardess, an attendant on the flight, that approaches him and hands him something over, which has the message of giving him a new mission. Not as a member of a team, but as the leader of a team. And so that is where this first movie ends. And so that is the very start of this franchise. I have to say for a moment, though, that I should mention, as they're in Langley, we get that iconic shot from Ethan hanging in the air, typing away, trying to get this list. And so that's a visually impressive moment, which becomes one of the very first stunts that is done in this franchise by Tom Cruise in this role. Okay. I'm gonna keep it at this. I know we're not that long on, but that allows me to do this more in shorter parts. Okay, so folks, thank you for watching and listening already. In a moment, so anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Thank you for watching and listening. Please like and subscribe. You can also comment if you like. I also want to thank you already, because the last couple of days I've been getting a tons of views from you guys, so thank you for all of that. Also, please share this with anyone you know, if it's family, friends, or people from work. So thank you for very much. See you in the next video about Mission Impossible. See ya.